Trans activist Sean Ebony Coleman challenges Black people to support LGBTQ+ community. Sean Ebony Coleman founded Destination Tomorrow, an LGBTQ+ resource center that focuses on bringing focus to the violence, health care issues, and other issues faced by the transgender community. In an interview with The Root, he spoke about how leaders in the Black community need to welcome all voices in that community. When discussing the intersectionality of gender, sexuality, and race, he said, and quote, "Our leaders need to recognize that whatever table they're preparing, they need to prepare space for LGBTQ+ community members. When you're looking at housing, food insecurity, and criminal justice reform, and all of those things, we intersect in all of that. I guarantee you there's a Black queer person somewhere in that space who may not feel comfortable enough to say what their unique needs are as well." End quote. Very, very true. We are represented in all walks of life, you know, other than us just being a community. LGBTQ+, we are in the world just like everybody else, and we support businesses, we support everything. So it's great to finally have someone to challenge people to make sure our needs are being met.
Yeah, address.
Well, I think it's important too to speak to that leadership, because he's talking to Black leadership, right?
Especially.
And saying, wait, you're missing a couple of seats at the table. And I hear this sometimes where people will make comments and I'm like, well, what happens when you're both? What happens when you're Black and gay, right? And some of the Black leadership sitting at that table may need to hear from that queer voice.
They do.
To find acceptance for their child or their relative or their...
They don't know how to deal with.
Exactly, because they haven't had the opportunity, right, historically, to find that type of acceptance. Little by slowly, I'm noticing that it's happening more and more, right?
Yeah.
But for far too long, they weren't able to.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to. Nobody had told them it was okay. They had only heard that it was not okay. So I'm glad that he brought it up and specifically to that group to say, okay, it's time to add a couple of more seats and have these conversations.
And it's people like him that really are willing to speak up
Right.
and mention it and say it and articulate it
Right.
in such a great way that we can all now say, okay, we can experience this, we can work at it,
Right.
and
Start to have these conversations, you know,
We tend within our culture to judge ourselves harder,
right.
especially within our different cultures.
Right.
So this is very important that it's being brought to the light and having that conversation as we continue to have them.
Absolutely.
I think it's slowly but surely opening up that lead way to acceptance and
you're right about
support.
that. Definitely.
Yeah.
LGBTQ+ news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure